Hey YouTube, welcome to the reading vlog for The Assassin's Blade. This vlog will most likely also contain my thoughts and feelings reading vlog for Heir of Fire, so I'm trying to do these vlogs 2 books at a time. We will see if I can get through the rest of this and Heir of Fire before next Monday, because it's Tuesday as I'm filming this. So that is the goal. Hopefully it will be the reading vlog for both those books. Little reminder before I start talking about my thoughts, where I'm at in the book, these are full spoiler vlogs. So if you have not read Throne of Glass, if you do not want things to be spoiled for you, this is not going to be the video for you. Feel free to check out my channel because I do have lots of other bookish videos up there, some of which are spoiler free. So, The Assassin's Blade. I did not know until I opened the book and looked at the page with the different titles for the different sections of this book that this is like mini novellas that make up an entire book, which I actually think is really cool. I think the way this book is structured is super interesting and just like unique, which is one thing that I noticed and enjoyed right off the bat with this book. Currently, I am a little bit of the way into The Assassin in the Desert. So I'm on page 135, it looks like. So I have completed The Assassin and the Pirate. Is it The Assassin and the Pirate Lord or The Assassin and the Pirate King? Hold on. Now I gotta open it up. We're looking. Yes. Okay, so I have finished The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, and I have finished The Assassin and the Healer. I really liked both of those stories for different reasons. I really liked that The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, we get to see a whole other side of Aralia. We get to see a whole new setting, new characters. I thought the addition of the pirates and the setting of Skulls Bay was like really, really interesting, and I did really enjoy that. And then I also liked that we got to see more of Sam and Selena's relationship. We got a little bit of Sam's backstory, a little bit of his characterization, some of, Sam and Selena kind of have had like a little rivalry because Selena is or was going to be Arobyn's second in command, and Sam had wanted that spot. We also learned that Sam went to the Assassins at a really young age. I believe he was either 8 or 11. It was one of the two. I'm not exactly sure which one, but we find out that he's been with Arobyn for most of his life, and we get to see the way they kind of work out in the world together as assassins. So I really liked, I really did like that first story, The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. I also loved that we got to see some of Selena's personality and how she wanted to free the slaves even before she had ever been at Endovier. I will say it's also like super sad, and I feel like I had seen people say that with the Throne of Glass reading order, that reading it third is going to be like more emotional damage, and I do see why that's the case because you're reading it knowing that she's freeing these slaves, she's punished for it, and then you know that later she's going to end up at Endovier at one of the mines and like at the work camp. So it is just like really sad. I will say, moving on to the Assassin and the Healer, it follows Selena in a different city. She's like staying at this shitty inn, I think the White Pig Inn, and she meets this healer named Irene, and Selena saves her from like a sticky situation with some men. And I feel like that whole story is super emotional because it's this woman who, Irene, who has lost her mother, she's lost her magic, but she still wants to go to this other land and train and learn to become a healer. And we know from, I believe, the first Throne of Glass book that Celaena offhandedly mentions that she had thought she was maybe going to be a healer one day. And obviously, we know that's not how her life pans out. That's not how things work out for her. But I thought it was really beautiful that she helped this woman out of this shitty situation, taught her how to defend herself, and gave her the money to go study at the Academy for the Healers and like start a new life. I thought that was really beautiful. It is also really sad to see. There was a line in that novella talking about. I'm just gonna find it. Hold on. There is a quote on page 115 that literally annihilated me. It says, "But Celaena had stood in front of that wooden door to the bedroom, listening to Yrene wash her clothes in the nearby kitchen. She found herself unable to turn away, unable to stop thinking about the would-be healer with the brown gold hair and caramel eyes, of what Yrene had lost and how helpless she'd become. There were so many of them now, the children who had lost everything to Adarlan. Children who had now grown into assassins and barmaids without a true place to call home, their native kingdoms left in ruin and ash. Magic had been gone all these years, and the gods were dead or simply didn't care anymore. Yet there, deep in her gut, was a small but insistent tug, a tug on a strand of some invisible web. So Celaena decided to tug back, just to see how far and wide the reverberations would go. That part about like how there are so many people across the kingdom who have lost their families, lost their power, lost their magic, lost their homes, like that I like started bawling when I was reading that. It made me so sad. The assassin and the healer. I think I've cried during every single Throne of Glass book so far, but that was what really got me in this one. And I feel like you're getting to see a lot of Celaena's character and backstory in a way that you don't see prior to reading this book. And I feel like it just gives a lot of depth to her character, and you know, it makes her more relatable, it makes her more likable, and it does kind of it sets her up to have that hero's arc that she was already kind of having, but then knowing the backstory, I feel like makes it so much more emotional and so much more impactful, and I really, really enjoyed that. So, yeah, that is where I'm at. I have read those first two novellas in here. I am on to the third. I am on to The Assassin. Is it The Assassin in the Desert? ¿Dónde está? Let me see. Yeah. I am on to The Assassin in the Desert. I am really, really hoping that I can get through the rest of this book and then start on Heir of Fire because I am also super excited about Heir of Fire. I will say I've also started doing some fan art for this series. Nothing serious so far, just like some little watercolors, but I don't know. I can't decide if I'm going to show them in this video or if I'll make like a separate video or just a post about them. But I feel like the setting of Skulls Bay in particular was like so vivid and interesting to me that I did actually do a little watercolor this morning of like the bay and the watchtower. It's really simple. It's nothing crazy, but I feel like I want to paint more series from I want to paint more scenes from this series, but I am such a freaking slow painter that we'll see when any of that gets done. But yeah, that is going to be my first update for the Assassin's Blade. I have some vlog footage that I'll put in after this of me reading it at the garden yesterday. It was really fun. Saw like a bunch of baby squirrels. It was a cute time. But yeah, I am really excited to keep going with this book. I'm really, really excited to give you guys my next update as I continue along. So that is going to be it for this update. I'll see you in the next one. So, this was my little reading spot for the day. I was just getting into it. I actually filmed this clip before I had filmed the intro to the vlog. So this was me getting into the book, watching the baby squirrels at the garden. This was a really fun time. It was a nice, chill day. I felt like super immersed in the story, and I think this was a great way for me to start off this book. One more clip of the baby squirrels because I am obsessed with them. They're so tiny, they could literally fit in the palm of your hand. Hey YouTube. So last night I finished The Assassin's Blade. I have so many thoughts. My heart is like broken. I have literally so much to say. So we'll start off. I think the last part of the book I talked about was the assassin and the healer. So we're going to start off with the assassin and the Red Desert. Now, that part of the story was crazy. I feel like until I sat down and talked about it, I didn't even realize how much it's foreshadowing the end of this book. How Ansel is not who she thinks she is, how Ansel like betrays her and betrays the entire like silent assassins, their guild, their keep. So damn, I didn't even realize that until I sat down to film this. That's so crazy because it is such a huge foreshadowing, and how Celaena talks a lot about how Ansel feels like one of the first real friends she's ever had, and then how at the end, when she discovers it's Ansel who has betrayed her, how she fires that arrow, but she intentionally waits another minute so she doesn't have to kill her. I just that whole part made me so emotional and it was so crazy. Also, the Live a Little Sardothian, that whole part really, really got me. I thought that was just so beautiful. And the scene where Celaena is describing, like, where she's describing being on the back of the horse. I'm gonna look and see if I can find it because it's did I already read this earlier in the video? Am I going insane? Did I read this already? I'm just going to read it a second time just in case. But it's page 175. Celaena had a sudden moment of clarity then, as her hair ripped from her braid and the wind tore at her clothes. Of all the girls in all the world, here she was on a spit of beach in the red desert, astride an Asterian horse, faster, racing faster than the wind. Most would never experience this. She would never experience anything like this again. And for that one heartbeat, when there was nothing more to it than that, she tasted bliss so complete that she tipped her head back to the sky and laughed. I thought that was so beautiful and it was so relatable. Like, to have a moment like that where you just feel such complete joy and you feel so lucky and you know that many people don't get to experience this feeling and that you'll never be in this exact moment again. I just thought that was really, really beautiful. I will say I really loved Ansel until I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we were all right there with Celaena, where it was awesome to meet another, like, strong female character and who has had such a similar backstory to Celaena as well. How, like, her family was murdered, her lands were taken, her home was stolen from her. Like, but she let it become something that hardened her heart. Also, that theme of like letting the light in and the theme of how Sam was her light. I feel like throughout this whole book, that was really beautiful. I have so much to say. I will say about the end of the book. last night I had that last section left, The Assassin and the Empire. That was the last section of the book that I had left to read. And I'm very, very glad that I saved it for nighttime rather than reading it on my break from work, because I think if I had read it on my break from work, I would have like just been deceased. I don't know what I would have done, because it really did just fucking break my heart, dude. Like, you know what's coming. You know what's coming. You know that Sam isn't going to survive. You know that he's dead. If you've read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight before getting to Assassin's Blade, you know that Sam is dead. But I felt like that whole last part, and even for a lot of the Assassin in the Underworld as well, I just felt this like pit of dread in my stomach, like just this like, oh my god, like you know what's coming, but I literally felt like physically ill. I cannot stress that enough. When I finished this book last night, I actually thought I was gonna vomit. When Celaena is describing seeing Sam's body and like the detail about how Farron took his eyes, I literally thought I was gonna throw up. Like, the visceral reaction and the feeling that I had in my body from finishing this book was crazy. I honestly, the only books that I've read this year so far that compared to that, I would say are A Court of Wings and Ruin and Rites of the Starling. And those were more like crying, sobbing, like literally sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. I did cry reading the final two parts of this book. However, it was that like gut-wrenching sense of existential dread that was really what I was feeling. Like, honestly, the pit in my stomach and like the grossness of some of this, it reminds me a lot of some of the feelings that I had when reading Alchemized, where it's such like a visceral sensation in your body. And I don't know, I feel like the way this book was done really made me feel so much more connected to Celaena. And I am somebody who I liked her throughout the other books. There were some things in the first book that kind of annoyed me, but I feel like part of that is just her being a teenager, the fact that she's not an adult. But oh my lord, I've got to look at my notes because I know there were a lot of things that I actually marked down and specific things that I wanted to talk about, but I feel like I really just do need to talk first about how it made me feel, because honestly, I think that's one of the things that sets Sarah J. Maas's work apart and is one of the things that makes her work so good. It's not necessarily the best writing in the world. It's not necessarily the most intellectual. It's not necessarily the most complex, but the way it makes you feel and the way that it really, like, for me anyway, reading The Assassin's Blade, it really took me out of my body but put me into my body at the same time, because I was feeling so many sensations and like so much just visceral feeling and physical feeling, not just emotions. Like, that was so strong with reading this book, and it really does put you into Celaena's shoes. And like, truly, I was rooting for her from the beginning, but I am hardcore rooting for her now. I will say one thing I don't even need to look at my notes to remember is if Arobin survives the series, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. That man needs to be taken down. He's so fucking evil. And throughout the entire book, I was marking down with my little annotation tabs the ways that he has manipulated Celaena. And there's this passage where she describes him as like not quite father, not quite lover. And it's just so dark. It's so dark. And the manipulation and the way she felt about Arobin, and the fact that he just sees her as like a possession. He just sees her as something that he owns and something that he possesses, and like that's that. It literally was fucking breaking my heart. I Oh my god, I was so angry last night. I finished this book and I literally sat there and like stared at the wall for like 30 minutes before I could like function and do anything else. I literally, after finishing this book, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself like 20, 30 minutes to just like decompress, like sit with it, stare at the wall, like zone out, think about it, and then like I have to try to like get myself back to like homeostasis, like back to like a regulated state in order to like be able to fucking go to sleep. So I finished the book. I took a little gardening gummy and I had a glass of wine and I watched Aquamarine because I was like, I can't. I have been watching Teen Wolf. It's been so good. But literally after finishing The Assassin's Blade last night, I was like, I can't even watch Teen Wolf right now. Like, even that's too serious for me. Like, I can't do it. We can't even watch Teen Wolf. So I was literally like sitting there staring at the wall. I feel like I have to rate this book 5 stars, even though obviously I hated what happened in it. Like I hated it so much. Like you're watching these events unfold. There's nothing you can do. You're powerless. Sam's been doomed by the narrative from book 1. Like there's nothing you can do. Also, I realize this audio might be kind of shitty because I'm like talking loud. I'm kind of yelling because I'm like so passionate about this, but hopefully it's still okay. But we'll regulate a little, take it down a couple notches, have a little sip of water. But yeah, this book was just so intense. I feel like it made me have so many feelings. I have to call it a 5 star read. This this was the turning point in the series for me. I already felt invested and I already enjoyed it, but I feel like this is the first book out of the 3 that I've read that feels like it could stand on its own rather than being like the intro to a series. This really does feel like it could stand on its own. And I just feel like the way it made me feel, I have to call this one a 5 star read. I am going to take a little pause so that I can read through my notes and see the specific things that I wanted to talk about now that I have gotten my big feelings out of the way. So, reading through my notes, there is a quote on page 264 that, like, are you ever reading a book and you read a line and, like, a song starts playing in your head? Because that was what happened with this. It's Sam and Selena, and it says, she nodded. There was more she wanted to say to him, and she didn't want him to go, but her throat had closed up, too full of all these unspoken words. She made to turn away. Literally, I'm pretty sure is it Cinnamon Girl that the line, there's things I want to say to you, but I just let you live. If you love me without hurting me, you'll be the first who ever did. That song was like started playing in my head and I was just like, oh my god, because it's so true for both Sam and Selena. Neither of them have ever had a love before that was pure. They've never been loved by somebody who didn't just want something from them. Like Arobin pretends that he loves at least Selena, but like we know that he's manipulating her and we know that it's not pure. We know that it's, there's strings attached, there's manipulation. It's dark. And that just like really fucked me up. I think also the fact that the assassin and the underworld ends on a happy note like that almost kind of fucked me up more because you get to have this glimpse of how Selena and Sam could be happy and how they could have like a beautiful life together, and you know that they're not going to get that. I wrote that like literally finishing that chapter, that last chapter where it ends on that happy note, that I literally felt sick because like you know what's coming. There were some of the quotes there that just like annihilated me as well. He brushed his lips against hers. I love you, he breathed against her mouth, and from today onward, I want to never be separated from you. Wherever you go, I go, even if that means going to hell itself. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be forever. Like, I'll end it all right now. I literally, I can't explain enough that this book made me so fucking upset. This book made me so upset. I was like, Arobynn needs to die. Fuck Arobynn. I hope that he eats it. Like, also, I'm flipping through to kind of see some of the quotes I wanted to discuss. The theme of ash throughout this whole series so far, actually. The theme of ash throughout this series, like things being burnt and like the taste of ash. This is page 338. Ash from a world burned to nothing. Lying in ruins around her, she could taste the ash of that dead world on her chapped lips, settling on her leaden tongue. The chapter where, like, as soon as Sam is like telling her that he wants to take out Farron by himself, you know that it's going to be bad. Chapter 7, that's broken up into these short little sections, because that's her waiting for Sam to come home and her realizing that he's not going to. It was so anxiety inducing, and it was the way that was written, I felt like was such like a smart choice, because the short little choppier paragraphs really make you feel like you're there with her waiting for him, and that like really really fucked me up. Also, the foreshadowing, page 408. After she had killed them, perhaps she'd tear the house down stone by stone. Perhaps she'd tear this entire city down too. I feel like that's foreshadowing for the whole rest of the series. Also, when she's in the wagon and she sees the Lord of the North, that just, she sees the white stag, that made me cry. That like fucked me all the way up. I like her having this reminder of her home and this beautiful rare creature that for all accounts like shouldn't be alive, shouldn't have survived. Like, Celaena is the white stag in a way, and it's just like so fucked up and so like beautiful and like so sad. I just, oh my lord, I don't know, this book has me fucking suffering. Like like, oh my god, I feel so connected to this world and so connected to these characters, and I feel like my heart just breaks for Celaena, and like all I want is for her to succeed and take down the king and for Arobynn to die. Also, I last night I was like, I know Farron is dead, but I can't exactly remember how. So it's Wes that kills him, and then Arobynn kills Wesley. Which, I mean, I'm glad that Farron is dead, but also I'm like, resurrect him and like take him apart piece by piece. Like, that man is the fucking devil, and I am glad he's dead, but also he should never know peace. Ever. Fuck that man. But yeah, oh my god, I don't know. I feel like I was reading back through my notes too, and so many of them are just me being like upset and angry. Like, I literally wrote down, I was like, fuck everybody who recommended this to me. Fuck everybody who told me to read this series. My heart is broken. I am in shambles. I am in pain. Like, oh my god. I truly feel like this series is going to shine in the way that it makes you feel and in the way that it puts you in these characters' shoes and you're really walking their path with them. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, but I think that's also obviously what's going to make the series like so painful. So, yeah, I'm going to check my notes one more time and we will see we'll see if I have anything else to say. All right, I have two more things that I want to talk about, and then I have to end this video here because this is going to be like 40 minutes of footage, and I can't be editing all that. So I did want to talk about Sam being doomed by the narrative and how you know that he's going to die if you read the book. Well, honestly, I would say whether you read it first or third, there's enough foreshadowing of his death in this book. There's a couple mentions of like him losing his head and like he would die if XYZ happened. And like there is a lot of foreshadowing within this one book of his death. But obviously, if you read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight first, you know that he is quite literally doomed by the narrative. It is spelled out for you because Celaena says, like, Sam is dead. So I think it just gives you a different reaction. How I mentioned that, like, A Court of Wings and Ruin and Rites of the Starling were the two books I've read this year that have made me have such a good emotional, physical, like visceral reaction to reading them. I feel like the also small spoilers for both those books. Maybe skip the next like 2 minutes if you don't want things from those books to be spoiled because I am going to talk about um character deaths that I put in quotes because of A Court of Wings and Ruin, but I'm going to be talking about some character deaths that occur in both those books. So if you do not want those spoiled for you, I would just skip like a couple minutes ahead. But how Caspia dies at the end of Rites of the Starling, you don't know she's going to die. I did not realize the timeline that Caspia was in until it was revealed at the end of that book. So I was just sobbing, like so upset because it didn't feel like Caspia was doomed by the narrative. It felt like there was a chance she was going to survive. Like I fully thought that she was going to be like Odessa's cousin or something, and they were going to meet up in the future. And then, kind of similarly with Amren, like I had a sneaking suspicion that somebody from the Night Court was going to die, or at least temporarily die, in that final battle against Hybern, but Amren actually dying and then Rhys pulling her out. I mean, I cried harder at that than I think I've cried at any other book ever in my life. Like, that fucked me all the way up. But I think Sam being doomed by the narrative from the beginning is part of what made this sense of like anxiety, and the physical pain of reading that book was like so different than I felt from other books, but it was truly like on another level. I really cannot stress that enough. The last thing I wanted to talk about was, is this the worst that this series will get? Or are there going to be more character deaths that are worse? Because truly, I don't know if I can fucking take that. Like, I literally wrote, like, if it gets worse than this, can I continue on? I do not know. Because genuinely, it hurt me so bad, and I was so fucking upset that, like, I'm laughing about it now because now I've had, like, 12 hours of distance from those feelings, and, like, I get that it's just a book. I understand that they're not real. They feel real to me, but I understand that they're not real. But like, does it get worse? I don't know if I'm gonna make it if it does. Like, oh my god, I know everybody says like Kingdom of Ash, the last book, is like heartbreaking, and I'm like, if it's worse than this, dog, I don't know if I'm gonna fucking make it through. I'm just gonna be like in pieces by the time this book is over. Jesus Christ, or this series is over. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Alright. I think that's gonna be it for this video. There's already gonna be too many minutes of footage. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you have read Assassin's Blade, if you have read Throne of Glass, no spoilers for the 5 books I haven't read, but if you do want to discuss Assassin's Blade, please drop your thoughts in the comments because I feel like I could sit here and fucking rant about it for the next 10 years. But alas, we can't be editing all that footage. So this is going to be the end of the video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you got some entertainment out of this. And let me know about your Throne of Glass journey, because I want to know. I know a lot of people read this series when they were young, many, many years ago, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just real emotional, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I'll see you in my next video. Bye!